Welcome, 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 all zero of you to this live stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a little bit of a different video for those of you who aren't used to live streams. That's what I do. For those of you who are used to live streams and what I do, this one's going to be a little bit more serious just because we're covering some topics here that I think really need to be touched on just to make sure that the viewing public is not misinformed. If you don't come to this show regularly, my name's Marcus. I specialize in telling people what to do with their money effectively. I've been doing that for almost 2 decades now. But in addition to that, I am a retired corporate professional, retired professional athlete, retired roadman, retired refugee, immigrant, son, brother, boyfriend, and I'm here to help you all live the business class lifestyle. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Business Class Airways. And that is just a term that I've coined, business class, where I believe you're born with natural existence. So everything that you do is good. Okay, you can compare that to economy class. You do a little bit of work in life, you can get yourself up to premium economy, and you do some sustained work for a sustained period of time, get some expertise, you can move yourself up those realms effectively all the way up to what I would term business class. There's also a first class, but you got to be a little bit God-given, you got to be a little bit special for that. But I think everybody can go and make their way to business class in the areas of health, wealth, and relationships. If you haven't come into my show before, I'm very sorry. I'm a little bit eccentric. We throw some horns, we do some claps, we have some sound effects, but the message is always serious and always has value. Today, we're going to touch on a video by YouTuber Sasha Jansen about what he believes in terms of pensions and effectively why he says you should not pay into pensions. Again, Sasha is a YouTuber. He's been around for some time. I believe in terms of his background, he has a background in credit, I believe. He's then gone into consultancy, then gone into media. I've watched his rise over the years. You can see that video that you've got on the screen. That video was in 2021. So in 2021, with all the income streams that he had, he was making $7,000 a week. I believe of that $7,000 up to $3,000, maybe even less, $2,000 to $3,000 was coming from YouTube. Fascinating story, very well done to him, and a lot of his content does add value. Now he sometimes goes on the contrarian side of things, and I think on this particular case in regards to pensions, I think he's gone off on a tangent, and there's a risk there that he's misinformed people. So this video is about why he's wrong. I'm going to go into detail about all the areas where he's perhaps not going into the level of detail to really show is it a good or bad idea. We're going to go through the actual video that he's sent, and then at the end, if you've made it this far, you're going to find this out. At the very end, I'm going to tell you the absolute number one reason why you may want to consider saving in a pension. And I say that word again, consider. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you where to invest or anything like that. This is just pure information for the love of the game. That is what this is going to be. But we are going to debunk a lot of things that Sasha has said in this video because I think it's very dangerous. Some of the things he said don't quite stack up, and they're not factually correct. So I'm quite concerned in a way. But you know, in the love of the YouTube and the spirit of things, I think he's a great guy. I love what he does. Most of his videos, the vast majority of videos, are of great value. Seems like a decent bloke as well, but I think on this video he's got it quite wrong, and there's a few areas where he's got it wrong. But like I said, for the most part, his videos are sensible. He likes to obviously go a little bit contrarian with some of his views, but there you go. I mentioned it before. This is a live stream. I do run this in the spirit of jest, so bear with me if you're not used to sound effects and so on. But I know I like to jazz things up a little bit. All right, so let's move straight into this video. Let's move straight into this video, okay? And let's see the reasons why he says you shouldn't pay into a pension. Let me add the video for you, and we will debunk everything in this, absolutely everything in this. I mean, first of all, you know, let's go straight to the comments. This part of the reason why I wanted to, you know, touch on it, because look at the comments. Sean Moore Finance, another good one, Sasha, well put together. A wide spectrum of financial knowledge. I mean, I don't dispute those two comments, but you know, there's people talking about default funds. There's people talking about you know, property investing. You know, you're an angel. I've been researching about pensions, and come with this video. This video will absolutely send you to somewhere else if you just look at this video and think that's pensions. And this is where, unfortunately, it pays to kind of speak to experienced professionals in the game. And I'm not saying necessarily advisors, but there is a ton of information online that will debunk so many of this, and we're going to go through all of this. I mean, some of these comments here, you know, this chap here, ANF True, he says there is nothing to stop you from opening your own SIP. See, this is someone that actually knows a thing or two about pensions, okay? But like I said, the vast majority of the comments are, yay, Sasha, we love you. Yay, Sasha, come on, yay. You know, again, look, totally agree, culture conservative, blah, 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 blah. Now, let's get into it. Let's break this whole thing right the way down, and let me debunk a lot of what he's actually saying here. Let's go. Let's get right into this now.
Hey guys, it's Sasha. Let's say you are somebody in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, and you are trying to decide, should you put your money into your pension or should you invest it instead? Because every single bit of financial advice...
I'm not going to keep stopping this because some of the things I'm just hoping you understand this, but should you put something into a pension or should you invest it instead? Well, your pension is an investment. It's literally just another wrapper, a tax wrapper. This is going to be a theme throughout what I'm going to point out, because I'm going to tell you right now up front, I'm going to touch on it every single time it comes up. I'm going to tell you right up front, the same way how you like to, or you want to probably look at diversification in terms of an investment portfolio, is the same way you need to look at your investments from a top level in terms of diversification of tax structures. A pension is just another structure with which you invest in. It's got its own different tax rules and you put money in there. An ISA has its own different tax rules. You put your money in there. I'm talking people from the UK. So in the US, I believe you have Roth IRAs. It's just a structure. You put money in there. You invest in there. And you've got 401ks. I believe you put money in there. We probably have these all over the world. So he's almost kind of throwing you off a little bit there about talking about investments as if it's separate to a pension. But let's continue.
Out there will tell you that the number one thing you should put your money into is your pension. Every month when you get paid, after you've paid your tax, the first place your money should go is the retirement account. And most people will have an automatic deduction every single month set up. In the US, it's the 401k. In the UK, it's the workplace pension. Same difference. You pay money into your pension before tax in most cases. So there is a tax saving there. Your employer contributes some money on top of the money that you contribute. In the UK, when you put in 5%, the employer pays another 3%. In the US, matching is not mandatory, but most big employers will also have some kind of a matching scheme. And every financial advisor on the planet will tell you it is a no-brainer. Of course, you should be putting money away as much as possible into your pension so that when you retire, you can have a happy retirement. You can play golf every day until you're 150. But the truth is,
I'm going to stop him there. He said a lot of stuff there, and I'm going to let it run again. I'm also using this as fair use. Sasha, please allow me to use this. I want to try and educate the public. I'm not just running your video. This is going to be very informative and educational. But in all of that thing that he said there, was there any mention of the most secretive tax out there in the UK, national insurance. Did you hear anything? I'll give you some time to think. Let's see if he actually mentions national insurance. And I'm going to touch on national insurance in a little bit more detail shortly, but let's just see if he mentions national insurance.
It's a bit more complicated than that. I am going to walk you through the 5 very good reasons not to contribute to your pension, or at least not contribute as much to your pension as you would otherwise. Now, before all the financial advisors turn up in the comments to tell me that I'm an idiot, here's an important disclaimer, because,
You're an idiot. And I'm not a financial advisor per se, and this is not financial advice, but what you've given out there, I think is quite misleading. Let's continue.
Financial advisors are a bit like vegans. There is nothing that a financial advisor likes telling other people more than that they are a financial advisor. And I know that they will have an absolute field day in the comments saying, Stasha, you're so dumb. Pensions are the best way of saving money for retirement. Stop spouting nonsense. Well, here is the disclaimer.
You gotta love his humor. You have to love his humor. I gotta give it to you there. I gotta give you a round of applause for that one. And you know, I'll give you a little hoot as well.
I strongly recommend that people plan properly for their retirement. And I do think that most people should be paying into their pension, because the tax benefits and additional contributions from your employer do make pensions very handy. But there are some very big drawbacks too, things that you need to be aware of. And in this video, I want to focus on them to provide a slightly different perspective. And for some people, a pension just won't be the optimal path. I know, how crazy. So first, let's talk about the return that you get on your investment, because there is this.
Now, I agree with what he said there. When he says for some people the pensions won't be the optimal path, I agree with what he said there in terms of it depends on what your actual objectives are in that situation. So, perfect example, you're a young person, you might be saving for a property. Well, I don't want to make the extra pension contribution. I want to keep that money in my pocket, so I need that deposit money. That is kind of, you know, a reason why it might not be suitable or as suitable for you, or you may not wish to go down that route. But let's just see what he's going on about.
Conventional wisdom that pensions are absolutely amazing for getting a really high return on your money for your retirement, because one, you can pay into your pension before tax. So if you pay, say, 40% marginal tax, depending on where you live, you know, roughly, then for every $100 or £100 or whatever that you put into your pension, your paycheck only reduces by $60. So right away, you've just made a 67% return on your money straight away. You just spent £60 of dollars and your pension pot grew by $100. Boom! The problem is that because you don't have to pay tax on your pension right now, you do have to pay tax on your pension in the future when you.
See, that is not incorrect, but has he mentioned national insurance? I'll let you, figure that out. Own a friend if you want to. Of course he has not. Of course he hasn't. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you about national insurance and tax relief, okay? So there is something in the UK called salary sacrifice. So you make your pension contribution by reducing your salary and then putting money into the pension. Now, what do you pay when you receive salary? Income tax, yes. National insurance. And that's the elephant in the room that he has completely left out. Some of you might not know what national insurance is. It's like almost a stealth tax. It's an unknown tax. Let's actually touch on what national insurance is right here. So bear with me one moment. I'm going to bring up another screen for you to have a look at. So if you look here on this screen, hopefully you can see that okay. Of course you can. So if you look here on this screen, it explains national insurance. Now look at the rate of national insurance. That's 12% on income between, let's use easy numbers, £1,000 to £4,000 a month. So if you're earning up to 48,000 or easy numbers, 50,000, you're paying 12% in national insurance, right? Debunked. I get that right now, when you make a pension contribution, you're going to get tax relief. But at the end, when you take the pension out, you're also going to be taxed. But like I said, if you make a pension contribution via salary sacrifice, you are not paying national insurance. And that's 12% on the first 48, 50K and 2% on the income after that. That's a big amount of savings. That is not a joke amount of savings. In addition to that, when you actually get to the point of drawing the income, tell me if there's any national insurance when you take income from the pension, please. Oh, wait. I'll wait all night long. And I'll still keep waiting, because when you do get to the point where you take the income from the pension, there is no national insurance. So that's a guaranteed no national insurance when you make the pension contribution in, and no national insurance when you're taking the money out. The income tax part I get, but even then that's going to be debunked, because like I mentioned from the start, what you're actually looking at in terms of the long-term benefit of a pension is part of your diversified range of tax wrappers. So that if the government changes that, you've also got this. If the government changes this, you've also got that. Okay. So already his whole argument is debunked. In the UK, you pay something called Class 1 national insurance contributions if you're getting, if you're an employee and you're receiving pension contributions. So you can. I'm going to bring up this other slide, which explains it in a little bit more detail. Not that I really want to be doing it in detail over a screen, but I just want you to know that what I'm saying is actually real. And it didn't take me a ridiculous amount of time to find this, but, you know, I'm in the know. So this is why I say what he kind of has, you know, put out there is potentially quite dangerous. Just bear with me one moment. I'll make this quite big for you. So if you look on there, it says, what is salary sacrifice? Your employer might offer you the option of salary sacrifice as part of their pension scheme. This is a way to make your pension savings more tax efficient and can increase your take-home pay. If you choose to take up this option, you and your employer will agree to reduce your salary, and your employer will then pay the difference into your pension along with the contribution to the scheme. As you're effectively earning a lower salary, both you and your employer pay lower national insurance contributions. I repeat, as you're effectively earning a lower salary, both you and your employer pay a lower amount of national insurance contributions, Sasha. Got him! Got him! I got him, you know? So majorly flawed in terms of the information he's provided there. The tax efficiency is not just income tax. That is an absolute, this is major. If you're earning £50,000, which you're likely to be earning not very much when you're younger, which was part of his, you know, point that when you're younger, most young people aren't earning, but the average wage is probably £30,000 in the UK. So most young people are probably earning up to £50,000, and that is going to be a 12% straight saving without any investment growth or any of that malarkey, guaranteed. You know, so I'm quite. This is why I'm here. I tell you the real. You know what I mean. People like Sasha want to come here and talk and be contrarian. He's probably stepped a little bit too far for my comfort zone, so I'm just putting it right there. So we're going to go back now to the rest of the video. Bear with me. So we are just debunking everything bit by bit. Everything's just going to be debunked. You know, we're not sugarcoating anything. We're just being very, very real and debunking the guy completely.
get there. So it looks like you're making a load of savings. That's how it's presented. But what you're really doing is you're delaying the point at which you pay tax. And again, the conventional wisdom is that when you retire, your income is typically going to be lower. And the second benefit is that when you're contributing to your pension, you're contributing from the top end of your income, the top tax bracket that you're paying out of all the different ones you're paying. And when you retire, that gets distributed across all the different kind of tax brackets, and typically people will be earning less as their pension compared to when they're in working life. So you're going to have to pay less tax. And there are two issues with that. First, when people make this point, they're typically comparing the 20 or 30-year-old paying into their pension right now to the 80-year-old who is receiving their pension right now. And that's not the right comparison to make, because you're comparing completely different generations in completely different situations. It's apples to oranges, because the pensioner who is now 80 would have been paying into their pension 60 years ago and 50 years ago and 40 years ago and so on. And nobody knows what tax is going to look like in 60 years, but people are living longer. Social security.
Again, I've already debunked this. We don't know what tax are going to look like in future, but today, if you earn money in the UK, you will 100% pay national insurance. If you make a pension contribution via salary sacrifice, you can avoid paying that national insurance. Also, today, this may change in the future, but today, and which has been for almost forever, you do not pay national insurance contributions when you take income from your pension. Debunked.
Security costs will only increase, so there is a risk that taxes will be a lot higher in the future. If you look historically, taxes right now in the US and the UK are actually pretty reasonable. They're somewhat low. But there have been times in the past when taxes went absolutely bananas. At the end of World War II, the top tax bracket in the US skyrocketed to 94%.
So because taxes can rise or change, is the answer not to put in a pension? I told you the answer from the start. Diversification of tax wrappers wins. That's all you got to do. You can't just stick all your eggs literally in one basket. You wouldn't do that in terms of your investments. Why do you do that in terms of your the structure of your investments? It doesn't make sense.
And the number of people paying income tax increased from 7% before the war to 64% after the war. In the 50s and 60s, for decades after the war, the top tax bracket sat at 91%. So although you're saving on tax right now, you don't really know what it is that you're trading it off against in 50 years or whatever. And historically, right now, the level of tax is low. So there is a chance that when you come to actually pay the tax, you're actually going to be paying a heck of a lot more. And if there was a major disaster, a big war, whatever, just before you happen to retire, you could well be deferring to pay much higher rates of tax instead. Now, the second benefit to contributing to your pension is the company contribution. This will work differently depending on where you live, but often the employer...
Now, he said that very lightly. What he's saying is, when you contribute to a pension, you effectively are going to receive free money.
First damn word come out your mouth, I got money.
That is not to be taken lightly. If you contribute to your pension, someone else is going to put money in there for you for free. That is not to be taken lightly. I don't know many, if any, other pension or any other investment structures that work that way. Yes, there's some issues around the flexibility of the pension, when you can come to draw on it, some of the things that you can do with it in terms of how you take the money out. But free money is free money, right? That cannot be just overlooked.
Either matches or almost matches your contribution up to a point. And for many people, that means if you pay 5% into your pension, your employer might add another 3%, maybe even another 5%, doubling your contribution. And that seems like a complete no-brainer, right? Your money doubles the moment that you receive it. That is a 100% return immediately. So that means pensions win by knockout versus not paying into your pension. And this is where the second reason not to pay into your pension comes in. Because when you pay into your pension, you then have to invest your money. And the problem with the vast majority of pension schemes is that you have to invest your money into one of their prescribed funds. And
I mean, obviously you have to invest your money. That's, that's a given. But I think, yeah, I mean, it was said by someone in the comment section, you've got a range of options. So in the UK, what you can actually do is you can do a partial transfer. What's a partial transfer, you ask? Partial transfer is when you take or you move part of your funds in your pension to another pension. It could be your own, what they call a self-invested personal pension, which has wider investment powers. So you could, let's just say you had 10,000 in workplace pension, they would typically say you need to leave £1 or £1,000 to keep it running and keep receiving the contributions from your employer. You've got to find this out, by the way. This is just information that you need to find out from your pension provider and your employer if this is the case for you. But typically they'll allow you to keep the pension open so you can keep receiving the contributions. So you don't want to miss out on that. As long as you put in keep in £1, or it might be £1,000, and then you can just do a partial transfer of £9,000 or whatever amount up to the minimum that they'll let you partially transfer. You put that into a SIPP and you can do whatever you want with it. It's yours now. It's, you know what I'm trying to say? So I think, you know, again, maybe a lack of education or lack of understanding, but if you are the viewing public and you look at that, you're thinking, oh, wow, yeah, my workplace pension, I can't do anything with it. That is wrong. And he's been debunked. Let's get back to the video.
Very often the choice is limited, very limited. Some pension schemes can be better, some can be worse, but most are really very restrictive. And many of these funds are stupidly risk averse to a point where a 20-year-old's pension is carrying a huge portion in low yield bonds for no reason whatsoever, and another big chunk in just plain cash.
Now, there's a bit of a reason for this. Some funds that are invested in your workplace scheme, because your workplace scheme is not your financial advisor, so they can't make a fund specific for you per se, right? That's down to you to get the advice you need to set it up specific to your situation. But typically how pensions have been set up before is that the understanding is you will get to this age, whatever age that is, whatever retirement age you set, and then you will be taking income from that pension at that age. So what they look to do is to put you into less riskier assets as you sort of grow older. And like I said, generally, if that's not been done, you will go into a default fund because they're not your financial advisor. They don't know which way you want to go, or you could be 60 and you just started a new job. You see what I'm trying to say? You know, you're going to have a different, maybe a different investment objective than someone who's 21 and just started a new job. So what do? You go straight in the default fund. It's not like that's what they think you should do. It's not advice. It's just default, something that probably is likely like a balanced portfolio, a bit of cash, bit of commodities, bit of bonds, bit of equities, diversify. You know what I'm trying to say? You know, it's not what he's trying to make it out to be in terms of, you know, it's some stuck weird thing and that's how it, no, it's just a standard default fund. You can do whatever you want with it afterwards, switch it. Not that complicated, in my opinion.
Losing value every year. The pension advisors who get a fee for selling you this dog shit will tell you that this is good for you because, you see, it manages your risk, of course. The truth is BS. There is absolutely zero reason why somebody who is a 20-year-old should be carrying any cash in their investment portfolio. And the outcome is that vast majorities of these funds...
I've got to admit, that is kind of, you know, everyone's circumstances is different, but on the whole, that is factual in a way. If someone is looking to invest in a pension and they're very young, because they've got a longer time horizon, they will probably be looking at investments that will do well over the long term. And I don't know how smart you are, but I'm sure you still know that equities will probably outperform cash over the longer term. Bonds will probably outperform cash over the longer term. So if you're younger, you're looking at longer term, you wouldn't want to really be heavily invested in cash. Now, there might be a reason to do that, because let's just say you are looking forward and you think that actually markets are very choppy, things might look bad, and you want to be in cash so that when things do look bad and there's blood on the streets, you can then use that cash to buy up all these cheap shares. So there is still a reason or play to kind of be in cash or maybe lower risk investments. But generally, he's right. You'd probably look more longer term if you were younger. We continue.
severely underperform the market. If you look at the statistics, 90 plus, depending on which data you look at, as much as 94 or 95% plus of these funds will lose to just the average of the stock market. The stock market has an average return of about 9% a year over the long term. Some might argue that this will not continue to happen because, things are not going to be as good in the future. That's always the argument. Others will say that because of human innovation, because of the advances in technology and AI, robotics, etc., future growth will actually be higher than what we've seen before. But let's say it'll stay exactly the same. Let's say it's just at 9% per year, continues along the same trajectory, and has been quite consistent along that in the long run so far. Now, imagine the fund that you're investing in just slightly underperforms. Many of these funds actually only return 5% or 6% a year on average. Some do a lot worse than that.
I mean, Sasha. There is a range. And there's a risk-reward scale of different things that you can invest in. And like I said, you still will typically, if you go to your pension provider and ask them about the detail, you should potentially have the option to partially transfer the bulk of your money into your own pension and manage it yourself how you want it. So, yeah, I mean, you're going on about it as if it's something that's stuck and can't be changed. Most of the time, especially modern day pensions, they do allow you to do partial transfers or invest in things that are higher in equity content to try and chase that growth over the long term.
But let's say that you happen to invest in a really good fund and your fund returns 7%, only a little bit less than 9%. And here's the calculation. Let's call your pension contribution X dollars. Then let's say that you have a really nice employer and they go and double your contribution, so you receive 2x dollars into your pension. And then you invest it for the next 50 years and you get a 7% rate of return on your money. At the end of the 50-year period, you have 8.9x dollars. So every $1 that you originally put in then became $2 when your employer contributed, and then became $58.91 after growing at 7% a year for 50 years. But let's say instead, you invested the money into the S&P 500 index. So you didn't go and put it all into the pension and you didn't get the employer contribution. So you just start off with $1. And then you earn just a little bit more, 9% return per year for the same 50 years. And at the end, you have $74.36. So the paradox is that getting a slightly better return on your money is actually way more important and way more powerful than doubling your money up front.
I'm going to debunk that whole myth, and I'm going to go back to what I spoke to about this at the start. What you want to do is diversify your tax wrappers. Okay. Now, you've got that investment growth there. Brilliant. It's meant you've been left with $74.36 versus $58.91. Anybody heard of estate planning and inheritance tax? What I know about estate planning and inheritance tax is that in a pension, any funds that you have in there are free from inheritance tax. I also know that you can actually pass those funds down to the next generation free of inheritance tax. And they can access that pension and pay income tax at their marginal rate. No national insurance. Okay. Oh, what's the rate of income tax, you ask, in the UK? I'll let you figure that one out in a couple of seconds. 40%. So we put the pension at 7%, ending in $58.91. Everything intact, yeah. No inheritance tax. If any of that is left over, you can pass that down to your kids. More than likely, if you've got a property, just the property alone, excuse me, just your property alone, property prices are so high in the UK, your property alone will probably end up falling within the inheritance tax, what they call the exemption or nil rate band, if I'm being a bit technical. But you do get an exemption, a bit of an exemption potentially for your principal private residence. Should you pass it on to the next of kin, fine. But by and large, that particular asset will cover a big chunk, if not all, of your inheritance tax allowances. Okay, great. Well, then what have you got cash on top of that that you passed away with, that you want to, you know, your children to benefit from that? What if you've got ISAs? What if you got investments? ISAs, investments, cash, all subject to inheritance tax at 40%. That's half. So let me get my calculator out, because I never trust myself with numbers, you know. I actually trust the machines, and you know, so we'll take that 74.36 and we'll take 60% of that, okay, after inheritance tax at 40%, and we're left with $44.61. If we factored in the fact that I mean, this is done over how many years? 50 years. If you were 25, at 50 years, you'd be 75. You could be dead. You could be dead by the time you access the pension. And then so all of a sudden, all of that money is going to go to your next of kin, and it's going to be half, £44.61. So that $74.36 is actually $44.61 after UK inheritance tax. And it's gone right the way back to my initial point. You need to focus on the tax structures. That is what will drive the end result more than things that you can't control. You want to be flexible and have diversification across tax wrappers, and there's a few of them. I don't want to touch on too much in this this video. I'm not giving advice, I'm just giving information, but he's been absolutely debunked on that point. In addition to that, we can even factor in the fact that the national insurance, which he hasn't factored into that, 12% national insurance saving. He's not even factored that into that. He's doing a poxy 2% difference. What about the 12% national insurance saving? What's that going to do then? What's that going to do to your numbers? This has been a really poor attempt to simplify the way pension wrappers work, and I appreciate, you know, going on the contrarian side to make people think about things a bit differently, but this has been an absolute nightmare for him. He's had a stinker, absolute stinker. He needs to go back to the drawing board. I'm sorry for showing it. I'm not sorry. I'm going to show it in big with that strange little freeze caption there. I'm going to keep that there for him to, so you can all laugh at him. Yeah. I am kidding. Let's continue.
Now, this actually proves another important point. If you are older, if you are close to retirement, if you are not 50 years away or 40 years away from your pension or whatever, then the argument flips completely the other way. And actually doubling your money up front is way, way, way better than whatever return you're going to get in the stock market. So you should 100%.
Let me tell you this for free. Free money is always good. Free money is with no strings, typically, is always the best. So, yeah.
Absolutely take it. But for those who are a bit younger, there is just something to think about. And not only that, but there is another problem, and that's fees. Because you see, pension accounts love to charge you fees. That's why they exist.
Here we go, Sasha. Let me see. There's a couple of links to some investment accounts which probably don't charge fees. And I don't look. Hey, look. I admire his grind. I absolutely admire his grind. So I'm not here crying about Sasha's making money. He's hustling, and he's got links to investments, and he gets a £10 bonus, and he can get free shares, and everyone clicks, and he makes loads of money, and my channel's small, and it's even monetized. I'm happy for the guy, and I've seen his rise, and I've been absolutely inspired, and I genuinely think he's a great guy. All his content is pretty much spot on. There's a lot of people that talk absolute wass in this area, but on this occasion, he's the one talking absolute wass, because fees are always going to be fees, one, and two, you talk about fees, what the hell about national insurance? It's 12%. 12%. If you're earning over £48,000, it's 2%. Fees at 2%, national insurance at 2%, and 12%. It's a big, you know, that's national insurance on the pension contribution, It's national insurance. So basically, if you wanted to make the same investment into another structure, let's just say an ISA, or investing in your direct name to use your capital gains tax exemption, which again, that's been halved. You see, that's gone down to 6,000. It's not just pensions, and we're going to touch it. It's not just pensions that people want to play about. It's all the structures. You need to be diversified across as many structures that make sense as possible. But yeah, you want to talk about fees. Let's be honest. Again, you can just transfer this partial transfer out and manage that and invest in funds that are not so costly. You've got tracker fund options. You can invest in shares. You can invest in direct shares in a SIP. You don't have to invest in funds in a pension. And some employer pensions are SIPs. Not all of them are, these weird old school pensions where it's got restricted retirement benefits and 3 funds. Yeah, by all means, you can typically switch those out and do a partial transfer. You might be able to even switch those out in the existing fund. It's not the way he's trying to make it sound. And every investment will have fees,
exist, and fees will eat away at your investments in a much bigger way than anyone actually thinks. You will usually have 2 separate fees. First, the funds that you invest in will charge you a fee because some are more expensive, some are cheaper, but often these sorts of funds that you have to invest in through your pension will charge around 1% a year. And then the pension provider will also charge you their own annual management fees, or whatever it's called in the US. They're sometimes called the 12B1 fees. So I think sometimes they're called the monthly management fees, whatever they are. These can also often be as much as 0.7 to 1% per year, depending on which particular pension provider it is that you use. So for the privilege of investing your pension, you will often be paying around 2% a year in fees between those 2 places where you're paying them, which doesn't sound like a lot. It's just 2%, right? But if your pension is only growing at, say, 5 or 6% a year on average, which is extremely common, then 2% out of the 5% is actually eating 40% of your growth. This is insane if you think about it. This completely wipes out the growth in your pension. It is massive, because if you just shove your money into the S&P 500 index ETF, you can do that by just paying 0.
It's massive, but it's probably not as massive as the national insurance savings or the inheritance tax saving at the end that we just mentioned, which is 40%. You failed to mention those 2, which are very critical, Sasha.
0.03% in the US or 0.07% outside the US for the ETF fee, and you can get a free or an almost free broker account. So instead of paying 2% fees per year, that significantly reduces your return, you can pay pretty much nothing instead if you do it outside of a pension. But this is just the start, because there are 3 more problems with putting your money into your pension. And these problems might actually be a lot worse. First, remember that when you put money into your pension, the money is then locked up until you retire. And even when you do retire, there are strict rules on how exactly you can draw the money down, which particular products are available to you. And that means that the money that you put into your pension is completely inflexible. If there is any reason.
Now, I wouldn't say completely inflexible, but definitely a lot less flexible than maybe an ISA or saving in your direct name or cash or maybe some other structures. Definitely, there's an age until you can actually access the pension without penalties, that's for sure. And he's going to come on to something else, which I don't think he knows too much about, but let's see what he's got to say anyway.
For you to need the money in the next 50 years, you just can't access it. And right now, you might not be aware of when you might need it in the next 50 years. Or you could maybe access it, depending on where you live, but you might probably have to pay a king's ransom in taxes and fees to do it. And you'll
not necessarily. If you put the money in the pension, you've obviously got tax relief from the money going in, and then you're able to invest some of that tax relief. So you've got a free additional amount that you're able to invest. When you pull the money out, it's only the tax relief, really, and a few fees here and there, but it's not as drastic as he's making out to be.
Lose a giant chunk of it. What if in 20 years' time you have an urgent medical issue that requires a load of money? Maybe somebody in your family has an urgent medical issue.
Debunked. You can get a serious ill health lump sum. If you've got conditions that they feel puts you under the serious ill health conditions, you can have your pension fund commuted and paid to you as a lump sum. So again, that's been absolutely debunked.
that requires a load of money? What if you don't have the right kind of insurance, or the insurance refuses to cover that particular thing? What if you have a health condition that means your lifespan will be limited, will be shortened? You might not get any benefit from the pension at all. What if you have some other emergency that requires a large financial outlay? Now, I know the financial advisors out there will say that you should keep a big fuck off emergency fund for all of these potential things. And that emergency fund will be sitting there in cash or something like cash and earning pretty much nothing. And a big emergency fund earning pretty much nothing for your whole life that you maybe will once use for something really important is a massive waste. What if you decide to move country in the future? Moving and repatriating a pension might not be too difficult, or it might be a huge pain in the ass and cost you a giant boatload of fees in the process. What if you want to start a business in 10 years' time and you need capital? You can't just go and raid your pension fund like you could with your investing.
Again, wrong. See, there's different types of pensions out there. And again, if you can, or you're lucky enough to already have this, but if you don't have it with your existing employee pension, you may be able to do what they call is a partial transfer. You can partially transfer into a SIP, and guess what you can do with a SIP? You can use the SIP to actually borrow, okay? And one further than that, there's another type of a pension scheme called a SAS, and let me stop using these random words. A SIP, SIPP, is a self-invested personal pension. It has a wider range of investment powers as well as the ability to borrow. You've got a SAS, which has a wide range of investment powers, the ability to borrow, but also the ability to loan money to the sponsoring employer. I'm very sorry, Sasha, but you got it wrong. You got it wrong there. You can use your SIP to lend yourself money in your business.
And life is funny like that. Today, you have a steady job, everything is good, and you're 100% sure that none of these scenarios will ever play out. But then life happens, and in 20 years' time, it might all look very different. Then there's the risk of your pension getting a tax rate in the future. This is a very real risk that many people just don't really consider. A few years ago in the UK, the government imposed a new tax out of absolutely nowhere called the lifetime allowance. If your pension went up over £1 million, you had to pay a penalty of 25% if you draw it down as an annuity or something similar, or you had to pay 55% tax if you take it out as cash. 55%. That's
wrong. Okay, and this is why it's very important to at least get very good information, if not get suitable financial advice from a qualified individual, whoever that might be. From the sounds of that, let's say you had £1 million pension. Let's say you had a £1,100,000. If you had a £1,100,000 and this limit, this lifetime allowance limit was £1 million, and you decide to take it as cash, you would be charged 55%. That's on the headline, the way he made it sound. Absolutely incorrect. Okay. When those limits come into play is only at the point where you, and this is a technical jargony term, which if you're in this world, you'll know what it means, is when you crystallize an amount of your pension that is over the limit. Okay, so when you bring benefits into payment, with those benefits that you brought into payment being over your limit. Now, if you crystallize £1 million and the lifetime allowance is £1 million, will you have a 55% charge? Of course you won't, because you have crystallized or brought into payment an amount that's within the pension limit. This is theoretical right now because, like he will touch on, the pension limit is the standard one is 1 million and let's just say £1,050,000 at the moment, but come April the 6th and beyond, it will be removed again. He's going to touch on it in a second, but basically, if you had a pension pot of £1.1 million and you crystallize or access £1 million worth of that pension, you would not pay a 55% charge. If you then decided to actually access £1.1 million and the limit was 1 million, yes, but you would only pay 55% on the excess £100,000. So the government will say, okay, cool, 45% is yours, 55% because you've saved more than I let you. You can give me a 55%. If you want to take that 100,000 excess as a lump sum. You can elect to take that 100,000 excess as an income and then pay income tax on top of that. But the way he's kind of said that, you would have thought if your pension goes to $1 million, then 55% of it is just going to all get wiped out. It's just absolutely shocking to say that live, to say that in public. And yeah, he's better than that. You're better than that, Sasha. Let's continue.
It's insane. Now, most people didn't care because £1 million doesn't sound like a lot, just over $1 million. But in the 12 years that this limit existed, it didn't increase with inflation. In fact, it reduced from £1.8 million to £1 million. And if you discount 1 million by the 2,
and just for the record, there are ways to work around that and minimize your exposure to that. By the way, I'm not going to go into them, but there are ways to do it as well. So it's not like you're stuck having to pay that 55% charge. A lot more stuff I could go into, but I'm not going to go into it.
2.5% rate of inflation on average for 50 years, it becomes £290,000, which at typical annuity payout at the moment is an annual pension of about £16,000. Just like income tax started out as only being there for the very wealthiest and eventually everyone had to pay it, the same sort of thing can easily happen with pensions. So suddenly that 1 million limit that existed doesn't sound like much at all. Now, a few days ago, the UK government actually scrapped this allowance in the latest budget because it was extremely stupid. But at the same time, the Labour opposition said that if they came into power, they would just put it right back. And a similar sort of...
And what do I say? Diversification of tax wrappers. You don't know what's going to happen. This guy comes in, changes that. This guy comes in, does this. You want to have a pension wrapper, an ISA wrapper, a this wrapper, a that wrapper. You want to have a complete diversification of wrappers, just in case what he's mentioning actually happens. You know, someone comes into government and then changes everything that was made a couple of years ago. Now, this is not advice, this is not factual, but if you look at what's happened in terms of how the limit has changed over time, you typically get a window to which you can fix the amount that you had before, and typically the new amounts are not applied retrospectively. Am I saying that that's what's going to happen? I don't know. Am I saying that's what's happened? And therefore, if you did take advantage of the situation, being able to fix your amount can alleviate any issues going forward. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because that's what's happened in the past. You could have fixed your lifetime allowance at the previous amount before it drops lower effectively.
Of tax rate could easily happen in the US or in other countries. It could happen tomorrow, it could happen in 5 years, it could happen in 25 years time. So you'll be sat there paying into your pension every single month like a good boy, you know, doing the right thing. And then one
He's a funny guy in this session. He's a funny guy, isn't he, Sasha? He has me cracking. Good old Sasha. What else has he got to say there?
morning, you'll find out the government of the time just decided out of the blue that you should have a maximum limit on the size of your private pension that you've accumulated. And if you go over that limit, they will go and tax you, say, 50.
So is it just pensions that has this limit then, Sasha, I asked? Let's have a look. Is it just a pension that has this issue that the government can just sweep the rug underneath your feet? Let's have a quick look here. Let's have a look. Okay. Let's have a look at this, everyone. Okay. This is a reputable site. Oh, what does it say here? ISAs, time to take cover from tax. The benefits of tax-free saving have rarely been greater. Grab as much of your individual savings allowance while you can, but think carefully about what you hold inside the wrapper. That's the message from the experts as time runs out to use your £20,000 allowance. This is based or written on the 10th of March. I'm going to skip forward to the main issue or the point that I'm trying to bring to light. One of which is in April, the threshold where you could start to pay capital gains tax falls from 12,300 to 6,000 pounds. That's less than half. And then it falls to 3,000 pounds in April 2024. You see, it's not just pensions where they can pull the rug underneath you, okay? Dividend income allowance falling from 2,000 to 1,000 pounds in April, and then 500 in 2024. You see, it's not just the pensions, is it? What's this here? Threats to ISA allowance. With the public finances under pressure, the UK government wants to raise more tax. Even the ISA has been the subject of speculation. While the ISA allowance remains generous at £20,000 a year, there's a political pressure to cap the total amount saved in ISAs. This group of cronies here, the Resolution Foundation, they want to cap that limit to £100,000. Man, I thought it was just pensions that they were trying to raid. They raid everything, which is why I said at the start, I said in the middle, I said somewhere 2/3 down the line, and I'm going to say it now that we're getting towards the end. Diversification of tax wrappers is king. Let's go back and finish off the video with Sasha. Bear with me. Here we go. Let's get back to the video with Sasha. See what other nonsense he's got to spew. There we go. Ooh. Not that one. There we go.
5%, like what actually happened. If that same thing happened with just regular investments, it doesn't really matter in the same way, because if you really had to, you could just liquidate all of your investments into cash and decide what the best thing to do with your cash is. Maybe there's a different way of earning revenue on your cash. Maybe there's property that you can get into, whatever is the right thing at the time. But with a pension, you don't have a choice because your money is locked and you have no way to cash out and you just have to sit there.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point. It's a lot more easier to make an adjustment outside of the pension. That is a fair point. I take that on board. You get a little, you get that one.
If the government decides to kick you in the teeth, you just have to take it and you have no comeback. And the last problem is that on average, we're all living longer. People are spending longer and longer in retirement. And when you come to retirement...
And by the way, we're getting there. I said at the start, I'm going to say something that is going to make you really think about whether you should consider saving into a pension or not. And if that's almost going to be your last hope, we'll get onto it. Let's just finish off here.
There is a number of different options as to how you can draw down your pension. I'm not going to get into the details here, but whichever way you decide to do it, you typically don't have the luxury of just taking all or most out of it as cash unless you're going to pay a huge amount of fees and penalty taxes. So you have to get some kind of an annuity, a steady payment plan. There's myriads of different options.
Again, you do not need to buy an annuity with a pension. Pensions are fully flexible. They call them flexi access now. You can take money as and when you want. You could take between an amount that's tax-free, typically 25% of your pension pot would be. The remaining 75% will be subject to income tax at your marginal rate. But you can effectively chop and change and take amounts that suit your scenario and decide not to take anything as well. You could take it regularly. You could take it one-off ad hoc every year. The fees point is real. You know, if you keep taking ad hoc payments regularly, you will start to rack up fees. You know, so that's something to definitely consider. But it's not as inflexible. You don't have to buy annuities. That's not factual.
Specifics vary depending on country. And the issue is that people are already living to an average age of 88 or whatever in some countries. And in 50 years' time, when you're retiring, that number might be 100. You might be retired for 3 decades or longer. And this means that whatever pot that you have saved...
Oh my word. Someone has liked the live stream. I'm sorry, guys. I have to. I've got to do this every single time. I didn't see this person in here. I did not see this person at all. They're not here anymore. They came in. They said, "Oh, I see him. I see him. He's got the red tie back again. So I'm gonna like it." Someone's liked the live. stream. I really appreciate people that come in, they have some fun, they make some comments. Right now, the views that I'm getting is almost 0, right? And I say 0 in the live stream for fun, but I really want some engagement because I think I can add a lot of value and information that might really, really help. I'm going to keep doing these because I know there's someone behind there. I know there is. And I'm just so happy that you can just put a like in there. I don't know who that was. It definitely wasn't me. I know I'm one of the people that is in the live stream. I didn't see that like, but I really, really appreciate that. And if anyone else has any comments, please relay them. If anybody else has any, things to feed back to me, relay it anyhow you want. Feel more than free. I want to get to the point where there's enough people in the live stream, I would say 5 to 10, where I can actually go on there. I can put a link in so you can actually press the link and you can speak effectively and we can have a conversation live, because it's all good and well doing videos and all that kind of stuff. I like the human interaction, so I love the live. And honestly, I really do appreciate anyone who finds this valuable, watches, shares, all of that. I'm excited now just knowing that one person has liked that video, but no, I honestly really do appreciate it. Back to the video.
Up will have to stretch longer, and the annual payout as a result is going to be lower. If instead you had your cash pile outside of the pension, you would have the flexibility to have it invested in other kinds of assets that both appreciate and generate cash at the same time. For example, you could have rental properties, or you
Sasha, you can invest in commercial property in a pension, okay? I'm not going to go into the ins and outs, but there's things such as student accommodations, there's care homes, there's effectively commercial property, business property through a pension. That is possible, okay? You can actually also invest in your actual own business through a pension. And on top of that, when that rental income comes in and that rental income is coming into your pension, there's no income or capital gains tax in the pension, is there? Right. But when you do it yourself and it's coming into you and there's all these tax things on landlords when they have it in their own direct name, and even if you have it in a company, you're still going to pay corporation tax, and then you've got to pay dividends tax to take the money out. You'll probably end up putting the money in the pension from the company anyway. Oh, Sasha, you've had an absolute stinker, mate. Game over. That was the nail in the coffin, mate. What else has he got to say?
could have a small business or a few small businesses. And the beauty of
Oh my word. Getting a bit excited now, sorry. But as I mentioned before, a small self-administered scheme, a lot of people may not know this type of structure, but it's a type of pension that actually allows you to hold business property, like your business property. So your business might have a factory, you can buy the factory within that pension, and you're effectively paying rent to yourself. It can work really, really well. So he's mentioning all these things. You can do them in pensions. He obviously is not aware about SASs and how they work. You can borrow, you can loan money to your business. There's a lot of quirky and quite clever things you can do with a SAS or a SIP. With your workplace pension, some SASs, so small self-administered schemes, are part of a workplace pension. So you've got all the big directors, that's what they've got together. All the different things around how those work, but you can't tell me that you can't invest in property in your pension. That is false.
Mixing in those sorts of investments is that you can live off the profits without necessarily even needing to use up the actual investment. The body of the money still sits there. You don't have to waste it and use it up. Now, there are some options in retirement that also allow you to do something maybe a little bit similar, but these are way less flexible and they come with huge fees because remember, your pension provider is not a charity. They want to make a boatload of money off selling you one of these things. So the choices you have on how to manage your money in retirement are very different. I hope that gives you something to think about. Just don't take it the wrong way. Make sure that you do save for retirement because it is very important. But just don't do it blindly. Make sure you are aware of and understand the downsides too. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you guys later.
Hey, round of applause for Sasha. Like I said, nothing against the guy. I think he's a good guy. He's got a lot of valuable content out there, but on this one, he's wrong on so many levels. And I hope you've seen that I've taught him a new one effectively and completely we've got a comment. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness me. Dropping a like for support. Keep doing your thing, bro. Big up, level up, Leon. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. Sorry, guys, I'm getting a little bit, unprofessional here. But dude, Leon, man, honestly, a guy just come into the chat. He said he's dropping a like for support. Keep doing your thing, just for the love of the game. Just for the love of the game. Leon, man. Oh my gosh, man, Leon. Man, I can't believe this, Leon, man. Oh my. Apologies, you've kind of gone off tangent here, but we got to give Leon a message. Leon, you are officially my first. You are officially, if I can spell, you are officially my first ever sponsor and sponsor of today's Money Mondays stream, which is actually on a Wednesday because we're running a little bit late. But Leon, man, honestly, big respect to you, Leon, man. Big respect to Leon, everyone. If there wasn't all 0 of you in the live stream, I'll tell you all to just say big respect to Leon because he's the official sponsor of today's Money Monday stream. Honestly, I really do appreciate it because I don't know who is behind there. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know if what I'm saying is making any sense. I am just literally staring into a camera and then just behind the camera is a wall. Honestly, and I want to really connect and engage with people. And I'm hoping by doing this, getting feedback, I can kind of develop and add a lot of value. I want you to kind of help me steer the channel as well. I want you to help me steer where the channel should go. I'm going to touch on the breadth of things across health, wealth, and relationships. All of those elements come together, and I'd love you guys to come on the journey with me. I believe Leon's the one that liked, Leon's the one that commented. Leon is running things up in this. Leon, you are today's sponsor. Thank you very much. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Man, Leon, man. Oh man, and I know there's 1 or 2 people that I think watch that I kind of know. I don't believe I know Leon either. So honestly, Leon, big up, big up, big up, big up, big up. Enough love, bless, and let me get back to my normal live stream. No, that was pretty much it. You've seen I've debunked the guy. I've absolutely debunked Sasha Jansen. A lot of good stuff he says. He likes to go down the contrarian route. It's not always relevant, especially in terms of what he's covered today. I'm going to run through every way I've debunked him. Salary sacrifice and national insurance. He misses that out in the fact that when you make a pension contribution via salary sacrifice, you do not have to pay what you would pay in national insurance. Yes, in terms of tax, you save it there and you defer to pay it when you come to take the money in retirement. But what you do when you put the money into the pension up front with salary sacrifice, you avoid paying national insurance. That's 12% and then 2% thereafter after 48,000. When you get to retirement and you're getting the income, you're actually going to be getting that income without paying any national insurance. So that's that one first debunk. Second debunked, when you save over the long term, what you're left with is the pension. If your pension doesn't grow as much as your normal investment because of the investment choice, you get more if you don't save in the pension because the pension has a worse investment choice. Well, first of all, you can partially transfer out the pension and invest in a wider range of options. But 2, the structures. If you're not in a pension, at the end of all that 50 years, and you want to give some money to your kids, or you're going to have to pay some inheritance tax, probably because you got a house, you're going to have to, that pot that you saved up, which is more than the pension, is going to end up being half. It's going to end up being absolutely half. So, you know, you've kind of lost on that front anyway. And then, you know, to add further, there is flexible options that you can do with pensions. So one of them is investing in direct property, right? You cannot invest in direct property in an ISA, I believe, or in a, I mean, you can just take the cash and invest it in the direct property yourself anyway, but I'm just saying you can invest in direct property with a pension, right? You can definitely do that. And you can also borrow with a pension, a SIP. You can also lend money to your company in a small self-administered scheme, a SAS, okay? There's a lot of different things that you can do where he was talking about it like you couldn't do it. There might be a little bit of inflexibility, it's fine, but you can still do it. The lifetime allowance, it's going to be no more in a couple of days. Yes, it might come back into play, but a lot of the times you get what they call is the ability to fix at some point so that the new one doesn't necessarily affect you. Debunked. Obviously, in terms of how that's calculated as well in the old world, you don't pay lifetime allowance on the whole pension, just the amount that is over, okay? And just the amount that you access, that is over. A little bit complicated, one for another day. Again, taxes on ISAs, investing in your direct name. We've seen what's happening to them. Next year, the capital gains tax exemption gone from 12 to 6 and then going to 3. It's not just pensions that are being touched. They're all being touched. You're looking at ISAs. They're potentially looking to touch up ISAs and put a cap on £100,000 on an ISA. You know, it's all good and well that you know, lifetime allowance getting removed next tax year, and Labour might come back and turn around and say, okay, well, we're sticking it back on. That's across every single investment. That's why you need to be diversified in your tax wrappers. That comes first, okay? And this is going to be the number one, the absolute number one reason why you should consider, I'm not saying do it, I'm saying consider investing in the pension. This is the number one reason why he didn't say it, but you're hearing it from me. You're hearing it here maybe for the first time. One of the biggest reasons why you need to consider investing in the pension today is because the good old state pension that was always there is quite a big sum now. It's probably 10 to 12,000 in terms of the full amount, 10 to 12,000 pounds a year, guaranteed income. You don't have to invest. It's just going to just be paid to you from the age of, I believe, 66 now. Guess what? You are now doing auto enrollment. That's automatically forcing you to save for your pension. You're going to sit there and not understand and add 1 + 1 + 1 and see what's going on. The state pension age is going further and further and further and further and further up. I'm going to give you some time to think what you think is actually going on. And no further friends. The number one reason you need to consider saving the pension today is because you will not, I believe, in future, the state pension may not be there. So this workplace pension or auto enrollment is maybe going to be all you have. That's the number one reason you should think about it. Guys, honestly, absolutely debunked Sasha on all those points. Some of the points he made, a few of them were valid, but again, it just goes to show there's levels to this. There's absolute levels to this. And some people should be careful about what they put out there on social media. Again, also the serious ill health lump sum. If you've got serious ill health, you can write to your scheme administrators. They can pay you out a lump sum. It's not like you're real when the money's stuck in a pension. No, it doesn't work like that, okay? That is pretty much everything that I've got for you today. I hope you've taken a lot of value from that. I've enjoyed it. I've liked going through some of the more detailed rigors today on Money Mondays, running through how the pensions work. This is specific to the UK. There is going to be some things that you can take away in other countries, I'm sure, in terms of, let's say, for example, the investment choices. There might be options to do partial transfers into your own pensions that you can manage, for example. And again, with the inheritance tax angle, I don't know if that's the same in other countries. So you've got to think about that too. But generally, it's going to have to relate to your circumstances. And if you were young and you wanted the money to maybe save for a deposit, and you said, okay, well, I'm not going to put in any extra. I'm just going to put in the standard amount to get the amount free from the company. Anything else I've got, I'm going to keep it for myself. In that particular circumstance, for that person who wants that money today to save for a house, that also makes sense. You know, I'm not saying you have to save in a pension. I'm just looking at this video objectively and coming out with some of the points that he's completely glossed over that are very, very important and crucial for you in terms of making a decision. Thank you. We got there in the end. Look what you're doing to me, Sasha. Look what you're doing to me, Sasha. No, I think he's a genuinely good guy, and you know, I've loved seeing him rise in the YouTube space and so on. I'd love to sit down with him, have a chat, talk around personal finance and so on. But that is me done for today. I'm Marcus. I'm here trying to help you live the business class lifestyle. Over and out. We are about to depart to heaven on the business class airways. No, we are about to leave you guys. I'm going to be live streaming again tomorrow. Before we go though, this might be a little bit cheesy, but I'm going to advise you do it anyway. Repeat after me. I will be, do, and have everything I want in this life and create my own destiny, because that is my divine will and I've been ordained to do so. Words are powerful. Say it with meaning, say it with emotion, say it with feeling. I will be, do, and have everything I want in this life and create my own destiny, because that is my divine will and I've been ordained to do so. I've been Marcus. It's been Money Mondays. It's been great. I've loved it. I am out. I will see you guys tomorrow.